Hello and welcome to the Skiing Show. I'm Tord Nelson and this is the show that makes James Corden look like he's actually a good presenter. Before we get started, I just want to mention the sad passing of Dietrich Mateschitz, the founder and owner of Red Bull. He didn't affect me personally, but he did affect the entire ski industry by investing a huge amount of money and resources into athletes and competitions. So very sad to hear his passing. Obviously, our thoughts go to the whole of Red Bull and his family. Anyway, let's move on and see what's on the show. Well, today we're obviously going to check out the snow around the world in 80 seconds. A bit of ski racing corner with Ed Drake, where we're going to talk about Solden. We will look into the ski resort news and see what's new for this season. Jerry of the day, send of the day. And then obviously, please remember to like, subscribe, comment, all of those things. It really helps us. And if you send any questions through the next episode, we will be answering those questions. So get them in, man. Get them in. Answer anything you want about skiing. I can't necessarily say that we're going to be able to answer it, but I might be able to find the right person for it. Let's go around the world in 80 seconds. Sam, please hit me up with a timer. Timer. Here? There? Just put it anywhere you want. I don't care. Just put it on. Let's go. Let's start in Europe, where Sweden is the latest country to open, with Idrefjäll opening on Sunday. In the Alps, we saw some of the biggest snowfalls so far. However, this didn't help Zermatt, who still had to cancel their cross-border downhill into Cervinia due to that snow turning into rain with all this warm weather. In Switzerland, Adelboden and Andermatt are expected to be opening this weekend, and Saas-Fee is the one that has the most snow, with apparently 140 centimetres base, which is huge, really. France is still fully shut. We did expect Tignes and Le Des Alpes to open, but they didn't because of this warm weather. Fingers crossed they can open really soon. Italy, it's only Valsenales that is open. They have a 30 centimetre base. Lots of the race teams are there, like Sofia Goggia, are training on that. I guess any snow's good snow, right? Right, let's head... Oh, no, actually, before we go, there are some more resorts that will open, and we should be looking at hitting November with about 20 resorts open for this ski season. Now, head over to North America. It's been more positive because it's been cold and there's been snowing a lot. Now, some small areas across Minnesota and Wisconsin have opened up, and it was Arapahoe Basin that opened on Sunday to be the first resort in Colorado this season. Loveland and Keystone are making loads and loads of snow with their snowmaking facilities, so therefore they should be opening this weekend, fingers crossed. Alta in Utah and Big Sky in Montana had a huge 63 centimetre snowfall, but it was coupled with huge winds, and the winner of them all is Wild Mountain in the Midwest, who took the crown of being the first ski resort to open in North America. Thank you, goodbye. The ski racing season is back, and this time it was in Solden, and that only means one thing. It means that we have to creak down the stairs, open the gate, and let little Edward Drake out of the ski racing corner.
Hey!
How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm all right. Thanks for letting me out, by the way.
No worries, you'll be back in soon.
All right.
We had Solden lined up, both women's and men's. We got half of it. We got the men's, but you just must be stoked that ski racing's back.
Yeah, buzzing to have racing back. Feels like years ago since we last did it, 6 months or so. But yeah, nice to be back. Unfortunately, the women's event was cancelled. That was supposed to be the opener on Saturday. There was a blizzard came in and it was pretty damp as well. So the snow that was coming down was really, really wet, moist snow. And that just attacked the piece. The organisers decided they couldn't run it. So they cancelled that relatively early on for the women. So not too much hanging around. And thankfully the clouds parted and they got to race the Sunday for the men.
And it was beautiful weather, considering how utterly
got really lucky
shit it was on that Saturday. But it was, I mean, okay, let's start with the winner, because it's basically the Haaland of skiing. The Tom Brady of giant slalom.
Yes.
Odermatt, you called it last time we spoke a couple of weeks ago. He won by, I think, like 0.75 or something.
Yeah,
like that.
0.75 seconds.
I mean, is there anything that man can't do on a giant slalom piste?
Doesn't look like it, does it? Yeah, he podiumed in every single giant slalom last season, and he's kicked off where he left off with a win, taking back-to-back wins in Solden. Not many have done that. Hirsch has done it. Ligety actually did it 3 times, and Meyer did it a couple of times. There's somebody else, I can't think who it is, that's also done it. But yeah, he is unstoppable, ominously quick, wasn't he? He even made a couple of mistakes. But I think he was pushed quite hard. I mean, the second run, he was beaten by quite a few people. He was beaten by Christopherson, and he went down relatively closely in terms of like the reversing of the order from the first run to the second run. So yeah, Christopherson also was pretty close after the first run. He said he just made a mistake down the bottom, went too straight and cost himself some time. So I don't think I think he obviously is ridiculously quick and by far the favourite going into every race on giant slalom skis, a bit like you see from Schifrin, don't you? Every time Schifrin puts on skis, you go, well, Schifrin's going to win. And now Odermatt's got that same tag.
Yeah, and it's interesting you said about Christopherson at the end. I really noticed that was kind of where a lot of the later runners lost a lot of time. Was that last, what would you say, a quarter, maybe something like that?
Yeah, it's sort of Solden, you kind of split into thirds. You've got the top third, which is sort of relatively flat, medium gradient, small roll. Then you've got the mid third, which is that 68% gradient, which is the ice hang, aptly named because it is just like a waterfall. And then you've got super light car park flat into the finish. And so actually the most crucial part of that whole racetrack isn't the steep. It's the transition from the steep to the flat. Because if you mess up at the bottom of the steep, you are then dragging across that car park in run. So yeah, that was Christopherson made a small mistake there and paid for it. Because I think he was only a tenth or so off, I think, at the split towards the bottom of the steep. And yeah, and then just messed it up on that sort of release onto the flat.
Before we get to Christopherson, let's talk about second place. Slovenia's Kranjček. Kranjček, is it?
Yeah.
Is it Kranjček?
I'm pretty sure. I'm sure I've been bombarded by Slovenians trying to get me to pronounce it on Eurosport or even the podcast for years. So I'm pretty sure that's how you say it. Somebody's going to tell me I've said it absolutely wrong.
We've at least like split our ways there. So
yeah. So somebody else needs to come in and call it something else.
Yeah.
We'll just go with Jan, shall we?
Jan.
But
Jan.
Great to see him back on the podium. He was on the podium 12 months ago. He had not the best season. He's had an okay season. And when you've won World Cups before and used to stepping on the podium consistently, to not have that like he didn't last season. So I think it's a great way to start back up his season. The start of the season last time. It's great to see him back on the podium because he's one of the best technical skiers that you'll watch on giant slalom skis. So I'm super happy. He's really likable. Everyone likes him. So yeah, nice to see him on the podium again.
No, for sure. And then third place, it's the story that they kept going on and on. And now,
what was the story? Remind me of what it is again. I've not seen it.
Now, we've got a lot of American audience, so they probably did listen to you. I don't know if you bombarded so much about the Red Bull Van Deer story. I mean, for those who don't know, do you want to give a quick 30 seconds on it?
Okay, timer, go. So, well, obviously he switched. He wasn't the first person on the brand, but he was, I think, the third person to sign, but obviously the most high profile. Big risk entering a new brand. I think he was obviously nervous about it. He skied incredibly well. It was unbranded because it's actually Van Deer Red Bull, isn't it? It's a combination of a brand. So Fizz don't let you have two brands on your skis. You're only allowed one manufacturer, and it's not allowed to be a drinks bottle company. And so Fizz and Red Bull Van Deer or Van Deer Red Bull are arguing about the space. So you have to ski unbranded.
There we go. I mean, you missed the main point of the fact that it was Marcel Hirsch's brand, but we can let you go.
I mean, even everybody watching this, and if you don't know it, then you should just unsubscribe and just bugger off.
Don't unsubscribe.
I mean, if they don't know who Van Deer is Marcel Hirsch.
If they've come this far.
Fair enough.
So, I mean, I think that obviously the director as well for Austrian TV loved this whole story.
So it is a brilliant story. I mean,
of course, it's a brilliant story, but I'm over it. Let's move on.
You're done with it.
Yes.
Right.
Let's talk about his actual skiing, because he's actually not the strongest giant slalom skier in the world. And fundamentally, this was a really good result for him, right?
Sorry, Christopherson.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he picked up. What did he pick up last year? 3 wins in GS. He was the only person to beat, I think, in terms of the only other person to win in giant slalom last season, other than Odermatt with his ridiculous consistency. And so, do you know what? I think when we're totally seeing a different side of Christopherson, gone are the sort of petulant child days where he's,
my favourite, the pantomime villain.
Yeah, I was going to say, I kind of miss those days. And I used to get really frustrated by the guy. And now he's like, I don't know, he's like
boring. Mr.
Nasty turned nice. And you're like, I was going to use some sort of TV analogy, but I'm not going to do it. Embarrass myself. But, he's great for the sport. And it is a great collaboration between, when him and Marcel Hirscher were battling it out, the snowballs being thrown in where was it? Schladming. All that sort of stuff, and constantly sort of butting heads. And now, they are, the driving force behind Van Der. And obviously they've chucked probably a lot of money and certainly a lot of resources at Henrik Christophersen. And it paid off. Race 1 podium. Boom.
For sure. It's always good when you're a multimillionaire. Audi have chucked some money. Red Bull have chucked some money. Not that I'm a cynic or anything, but
no, of course not. Of course not.
But it was overall a really good race. Any honourable mentions that you just want to chuck in before we?
I thought there was quite a few. There was a little speed group, wasn't there, that entered the race? So you had Kriechmeier, Meyer, Kilder, Paris, Ryan Cochrane-Siegel. So you had all of these sort of speed guys deciding that they were going to come and enter the race. Now, I think that's a couple of different prongs, because we were supposed to obviously have, which we were going to touch on anyway, so I'll just jump ahead a little bit. We're supposed to be in Zermatt, Cervinia next weekend, or this coming weekend, for the opening downhill of the season, but that has been cancelled. So those guys would have been, and they only cancelled that, 3-4 days ago anyway, less than a week ago. So those guys would have been over, and it would have been their plan to be back in Europe and sort of staying sharp, because normally the speed skiers don't have to get sharp until the end of November, so they normally have a little bit more time to get ready. But they would have been there also, so may as well come and do Solden. They've got 400 points, which is why they start up World Cup points. That is, it's but if you think overall points in 3 disciplines now.
No, and so obviously you totally ruined my next question, which was about. Actually, do you know what? I just want to give 2 shout outs from my perspective. One, Tommy Ford.
Fastest second run. Good lad.
Yeah. And the other one, who did crash out, but Andorra, and I don't know his name, but the guy from Andorra.
Juan Verdu.
What a guy.
He was. He's very quick. He's been great on the Europa Cup circuit. He's been smashing that for the last couple of seasons. So great to see him in a second run again, because he's already done, I think, 1 or 2 qualifications. But yeah, he's an awesome skier.
Absolutely. So right, I'm done with it now. Let's move on.
Finish with that.
So as you said, the cross-border downhill cancelled, which is a shame.
For the men.
For the men. So does that mean it's still going ahead for the women?
They are hopeful. So it was supposed to be this weekend, which is what, 29th, I think. 29, 30. So it was supposed to be this weekend. They cancelled the men's. The women's is the following weekend, which is the 5th and 6th. So they are still hopeful. But the reason they cancelled it is because lack of snow on the bottom part, obviously not on the top part. But then the glacier is still a bit thin, which means crevasses and all of the likes that normally come along with crevasses. So, yeah, not enough snow, basically. A real shame.
But as I said to you before, it's called not a surprise to put when you're putting a downhill in October. But
yeah, and it's obviously being on a glacier, as you see from Solden. There's no trees, there's no shelter, there's nowhere to hide. So unless it is properly, God's everything shining at the right time, it's going to be a tough one to get away at the best of times.
So we're gonna have to wait for November. If that women's race doesn't work, do you know what the next one is after that?
Yeah, Lech Zürs. It's the parallel. So 12th and 13th of November. So yeah,
that will go ahead.
It's Austria. So they will chopper in the snow. They will bus it in, chopper it in. They will have plenty of people making stuff.
Based on Van Deer's marketing campaigns, they'll probably drive it up in Audis.
Yeah, I think they will do anything and everything.
Exactly. Right, you are about to record the ski racing podcast, are you not?
I am.
That'll be out when?
Tonight.
And people can find that on where?
Anywhere you get your podcast from. Hit us
there
up.
You go.
The Ski Racing Podcast. Come search us. Come hunt us out. Join the Predictions League.
Did
you enter, Todd?
I did, and I had Odermatt, so thank you.
Oh, you and like 99% of everybody.
Well, only because I listened to your prediction. Anyway, do enter the Predictions League. It's really good fun. Ed will be back, I think, on Peacock probably for the next races, right?
Yeah, we'll be back.
There you go. Thank you, Ed. Get back in the bloody cellar.
Oh, mate, let me out.
As we're coming into the ski season, I want to talk a bit about the news within ski resorts. Apparently, there are 149 new lifts in Europe and 50 new lifts in America for this season. Now, I'm not going to talk about all of them, but I do want to highlight a couple of newsworthy stories from around the world. And let's start in Europe, where Val Thorens are celebrating their 50th anniversary. Now, with that, they've done a couple of different things, but they've also redesigned the family fun zones, including a space-themed area featuring a beginner snow park with space-themed jumps. No, I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, let's move on. Andermatt has bought into the Epic Pass system with a promised $180 million investment that's going into the infrastructure. Now, we all know from our North American friends how successful and popular the Epic Pass is, right? Right? Yeah. Anyway, right, Le Deux Alpes has 3 new lifts, Porte du Soleil has a new gondola, Alpe d'Huez has a bunch of new lifts, and actually the funicular that links Sierra to Crans-Montana, which I think was originally built in like 1911, has been upgraded and will be opening on the 12th of December. So that's really exciting. Now, over in North America, now let's all remember that Europe had a really, really tough time through COVID. North America did have it a little bit easier. Last year, I think they broke records of how many skiers they had go. So, which is why there's a lot more investment in North America. So, like Jackson Hole, they're replacing the Thunder Lift that got put in 1994 with a new detachable quad. Northstein, California, has a new high-speed 6-man lift. Heavenly are also replacing a couple of fixed grip triple chairs. Let me scroll down. Mammoth Mountain has spent $5 million on snowmaking equipment, so that I think will be really, really big for people skiing there. Whereas Alpine Meadows, they've done a huge base-to-base gondola uniting 2 areas of, and I struggle to say this, Tahoe. It's huge. It's awesome. Anyway, Beaver Creek have added 250 acres of beginner and intermediate terrain. Vale have replaced 2 lifts. Breckenridge have upgraded Rip's Ride from a fixed grip double to a high-speed quad. Right, Steamboat, they have gone big, and I'm talking big, like big. They are actually building the longest gondola in North America. Now, caveat, they've only opened the lower part this season, but the higher part or the upper part, sorry, will come next year. But it is going to take 10,000 skiers per hour and have cut it in half to 13 minutes. Huge. Buttermilk, Mountain and Aspen have spent $23 million transforming their like services and restaurant building and so forth. It's probably painted in 36 karat gold or something, knowing Aspen. Out east, Akimo have a new high-speed chair, as has Stowe, and Killington have apparently transformed their K1 lodge into what I read as so-called state-of-the-art dining. I have no idea what that means. I'm assuming robots, but who knows? And lastly, I have to mention this, the sad news that Mount Ruapehu in New Zealand, where I actually did a season in 2008, has gone into voluntary administration. Really sad. I really hope somebody can buy it and make something good of it. It is a major ski resort for the Auckland area, but has just really shitty weather. I'm not going to lie to you. Anyway, hopefully that gives you guys a little bit of a resort news, a breakdown. Obviously, comment below of any updates that you know of, but it's looking like it's going to be a sick winter. Let's go shredding.
Alex, no.
Drums keep pounding a rhythm to the brain.